So right now we have an amazing treat. We actually have a sheriff from Arizona. And Sheriff Mark Dannels, he's the sheriff of Pinal, Cochise. It's my neighbor. How can I forget my neighbor? Yeah. Okay, so he's the sheriff of Cochise County, and that county is just south. It's the southern border of. Leave Tombstone out of this. Tombstone's not part of this, but yeah, Tombstone's in Cochise County. So, but Cochise County is the southern border of Graham County, where I was sheriff. Okay, and Sheriff Dannels was not in there while I was in. I haven't been sheriff, by the way, for 22 years, and I was only in 2 terms. And I'm telling you what, I've heard a lot about Sheriff Dannels. He is the expert from Arizona. The closer you live to the border, the more expert you become about the problem there. And again, this is a very fundamental issue about protecting the people in your county. And it looks like protecting the people of this state and now the people of this country. And I don't know if you've heard, but every Democrat candidate has said they want free health care for people who come here illegally. And do you know what that costs per year? $23 billion a year. That's just for the illegal aliens, okay? For us to invite them here with free health care, I find that astonishing, but it is absolutely against the law and unconstitutional to take our tax dollars and use it for people who come here illegally. And he can tell you a lot more about this. Sheriff Mark Dannels, Cochise County Sheriff.
Well, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for all your support for sheriffs, not just here in Arizona and Cochise County, but in the nation. With over 3,000 sheriffs, I mean, representing communities directly, and what a special office it is to hold. I cherish that. I really do. I'm honored and I'm humbled to serve the folks of Cochise County and Arizona and beyond. And sheriffs, we unite in so many ways. We have some exceptions. I'll be the first to say it in our profession as sheriffs, but the reality is this. 99% stand up for our U.S. Constitution, our state constitution, and our oath of office, which is sacred to all of us. The day we forget that, it's the day we're going to erode the rule of law in this country. This is my 35th year in law enforcement. 35 years, prior to that I was in the military. You probably think, God, he looks really young. I am. So I went to the academy at 20, so I've been doing this a long time. It's really what I know after I got out of the military. And I serve right now. I'm the chairman for the National Sheriff Association Border Security, and I'm also the only sheriff in the country that sits on the Department of Homeland Security Advisory Council, appointed by the White House, President Trump, and the secretary. By the way, this will be my 3rd secretary I'm going to be working for coming up here. But it's a voice for community. It truly is, and that's what I stand for. When I sit in the meetings in Washington, D.C., I presented to President Trump and Vice President Pence here months back for about an hour. I stand for communities. Every one of us sitting in this room today stands for the traditions we expect as Americans, our laws, our freedoms, and liberties, and that's what sheriffs stand for. There's a sheriff in this country that just came out with an article a couple months ago that I read that just pissed me off. And he stated that sovereign citizens are not dangerous people. Well, folks, I'll tell you right now, in my 35 years, yes, they are. They're anti-government, they're anti-constitution, and they're anti-law enforcement. For a sheriff to say that, that's that 1% I was just talking to you about. Cochise County is kind of unique. It's very unique in the fact that we've been on the front line of border security for decades. In my 3 decades plus, I've seen evolution that has not been good for rural Southwest borders. And this, you're going to hear me talk. One thing I do as a sheriff, I look at anybody that's elected in an office. You're not elected to be safe. You're elected to take a risk. You're elected to get out there and make that positive difference for those you serve. The day you forget that, it's the day you're in serious trouble. The day you try to work around bushes, you're in trouble. You have to say it how it is. And I'll tell you a story. I see so many elected officials, local, state, and federal right now, that are more worried about being reelected than about doing the job they were elected to do. It's bothersome to me. It is. I had a lady call me This is right when the school shootings here about 7 years ago really kicked in. 6 years ago was really an epidemic in this country. Not that it still is not. And any school shootings is horrific. But she called me and said, we need to change this, Sheriff. And I said, I agree with you 100%. We need to work collectively with our communities, our educators from our schools, local, state, and federal. We need to come up with a comprehensive plan to protect our young ones. She goes, no, that's not what I'm talking about. I said, what are you talking about? She goes, we need to change the Constitution. You know, and I'll be the first to say, General Mattis, I spent a couple days with him. He made a comment to me. He goes, you should go home every day with a balanced lesson of the day and wake up fresh. And I believe in that. I truly do. But sometimes you just can't. I looked at her and I told her that. And I said, let me tell you something. I can't meet you in the middle on that statement. And she goes, what do you mean? I said, I think the Constitution is one of the best remarkable piece of paper documents we've ever written in this country. And I take an oath to support it. And she goes to me, well, it's outdated. And I told her, I said, ma'am, I can't meet you in the middle on this one. She goes, well, I'm not going to vote for you. I said, one last thought from me. I'm sure you didn't the first time either. So bottom line, I've also made this comment too. It's pretty loud in my county, and I got a very, very great county to serve for. Great people that truly support my mission to secure our county, secure our country, and also those that violate the law are those that I try to put in prison. And I'll give you a story on that. Lady called me, said, Sheriff, and I don't get a lot of calls after, like I said, the many years. I'm a cop's cop at heart. I truly am. And people call me a politician. I said, don't call me that name, please. Don't ever call me that name. But this lady calls me. She says, hey, Sheriff, your deputies are following me around. And I told her, I said, you know, 100-some thousand people in my county live in my county. Why you? They don't follow my wife. They don't follow me. They don't follow my children. Why are they following you? And she hee-hawed and she back and forth. And I said, hold on. Come on, now let's be transparent. Why are they following you? Well, I smuggled fentanyl and heroin and stuff into the country. And so I looked on the phone with her, excuse me. I said, ma'am, let me just say this to you. So you're a drug dealer. And she said to me, she goes, I don't like the way you're putting that. I said, but you are. You just admitted you're a drug dealer. Let's just be honest with each other. You're a drug dealer. And she goes, well, yeah, but they're harassing me. I said, good. And I said, let me tell you something. I said, legally, we'll always respect the laws. But I'm telling you something right now. You are infecting our communities. You're infecting our schools, our young people, and the way of life in America. So I want my deputies watching you. If you don't want them to do that, quit being a drug dealer. She hung up on me. So bottom line is this. You got to be honest in today's world. You know, we have a motto at the sheriff's office, and we set this, that we're all entitled to an opinion, and we should respect that. But we're not entitled to our own facts. And so I wish Congress, our U.S. Congress, would take that statement and look at it every day before they start making decisions. Because we're built around a country that's built around opinions, political affiliations, emotions, and it drives me nuts. And I'll tell you, what I'm going to talk about here in the next few minutes is rest on the shoulder of our U.S. Congress. I've testified numerous times in front of Congress, our U.S. Congress. I go back there, you walk away, you walk out going, I just made a difference. You get on the plane, you get back, and you realize you didn't do nothing. And that's sad to say. And we've united sheriffs. As the chairman for the National Sheriff Association, my voice on DHS, you can't imagine the movements we have tried. And I think we have collectively done a very good job with that. But in my county, after 3 decades of just negative decline when it comes to our economy, when it comes to our way of life, the quality of life, and last but not least, the increase in crime, a direct result of the border plan. It's a direct result. Don't let anybody else kid you on that. And I tell you, everything we're seeing on the southern border, Cochise County has seen it before. And back in 2015, after seeing all this, hoping that my testimony, other sheriffs, Sheriff Wilmot out of Yuma, Sheriff Napier out of Pima County, other sheriffs that go testify in front of Congress, that stand united, we walk on the Capitol. I walked on the Capitol here a few months ago and delivered a letter to Congress. I'd love to see what shredder that went into. But the reality is this. And it sounds ill. I'm a very hopeful guy and a very optimistic person, but I also realize it's not working. In 2015, my son's a police officer for the city of Sierra Vista. And working as many years as I have in law enforcement, I've had a lot of threats. I've had a lot of threats. I've been in 8 shootings. I don't say that with a cape. I say that is, I'm going home every night, folks. I'll tell you right now. And I'm not an extremist. I'm going to go home every night. And if you point a gun to kill me, good luck. But in 2015, my son was a young officer. My wife's in the back. She respects this story. In 2015, my son came over for dinner, and he was working. I told him, I said, hey, be safe out there. As a father, being involved in as much as I've been in, and I've been sued like 20-some times too, so courts don't scare me no more. But the reality is this, about 1 in the morning, midnight, my dispatch calls me and says, Sheriff, your son was just involved in a shooting. I said, how is he? They said, we don't know. I get in my patrol car, I head to the scene. He had chased a vehicle, got into a pursuit, headed out into the county, into a residential neighborhood, and lo and behold, they tried to kill him. He shot and killed one of them. I got to the scene. My deputies were like, come on in, Sheriff. I said, no, I'm here as a father. I got my son. I'm being involved in these 4. I said, this is what's going to happen. You be truthful. You be honest. You be transparent. I took him back to his own police department. The chief and I told the chief I'll meet you back there with him. So we talked. The next day, the police chief calls me and says, do you know who this is that your son shot? And I said, no. I didn't ask. So he told me, and I knew right there, this is a huge cartel family minutes from where we live. They live across the line. That line protects them. Sometimes I wonder if it protects us. The next day, my assistant calls me, and I knew right away that this is not going to go away. The next day, my assistant calls me and says, Sheriff, I just got a call from Mexico, because the phone pops up. She goes, they said they're going to kill you. They called the police department and told my son they're going to kill him. So we took my son, we took him out of town that night. Got him out of state, actually. The chief and I did. Next night, or that night, I can't remember which, it was about midnight. My wife and I watched a movie, and we went to laid in bed there, and I couldn't sleep. We lived right on the verge of city county area, and our backyard was a cul-de-sac. We lived in a cul-de-sac, but it was a wash. So I get up and I walk to the front window of my house, look down, and I saw 3 of my deputies running through the cul-de-sac. And as soon as I saw that, my phone rang, looked down, it was my dispatch, and said, Sheriff, you got people in your backyard. And so I had my gun with me, if it kind of puts the thought in place. I ran out. We chased them out through the backyard into the wash. I called for helicopter support from a couple local jurisdictions, and they said that one wouldn't even wake up the pilots to ask them to fly. So after that, I said, you know, I can't rely anymore on other jurisdictions. I just got to get it done. My team, we set a task force. We went after every known cartel, drug associate in my county, and we sent a message that you're not going to threaten us. We also implemented several programs. We went ahead and implemented a program called a SABRE team, border team. We implemented a team, a street crimes unit, K-9 interdiction team, a ranch patrol, 2 deputies, a virtual system that right now encompasses 700 cameras, that we're the only local law enforcement agency in the country that has military support. Watch our camera. Don't tell anybody on that. Last October, the military folks came to my office and said, Sheriff, we wanted to say goodbye. I said, where are you going? Some colonel and JAG said they're taking you back and we can't support a local initiative. I said, don't walk too far away. I called the governor's office here. I called a general. Next day, they were back. So, and it really helps us. We have a 100% conviction rate in Cochise County. 100%. On the juvenile side, we had 22 juveniles in 45 days smuggle drugs into my county. Those 22 juveniles, both from Mexico and the U.S. side, vulnerable kids on our local high schools, 22 were caught with drugs, smuggling. The federal government did nothing to them. No consequence. They went back to Mexico, some of them did, and they got beat. We got photos of that. The county attorney and I came together with our CBP partners and said, enough's enough. We said, we'll prosecute those kids. We'll take it. We'll take all your prosecutions that the U.S. attorney fails to do because they don't have the will. In Arizona, you can remand them in the ages of 14 and 17, and you can remand them as adults. I used to remand 1 or 2 kids, maybe a year. We went from 1 or 2 to 36 a day in my jail. My financial people at the county called me and said, Sheriff, what are you doing? Fulfilling my oath. I had a Superior Court judge, presiding judge, get with me. We're walking in an event one day, and he goes, Sheriff, I need to talk to you. I said, what's up? And he goes, hey, listen, the Superior Court judges don't want to take your cases. I said, I didn't know that was subjective. I thought they were a trier of facts. And this judge and I have worked together for 30 years, and he goes, you understand my pain? I said, I do, but we need to do it. We're not going to stop. I got a meeting with the consulate. They just got back from Washington, D.C. He came in with his team, and we sat down, and he hands me a piece of paper. And I was looking through the paper while he's talking to me. He goes, listen, Sheriff, we just got back from Washington, D.C. They're concerned about you. I said, oh, somebody cares. I like that. But he said to me, he goes, Sheriff, we got to fix this. I go, we do. We have to work together against what I think is one of the most terrorist organizations in this world, and that's the cartels, these transnational organizations. He goes, no, that's not what I'm talking about. Then what are you talking about? So on page 5 of this document, 5 or 6, there was a PowerPoint printout, and it says, Cochise County Sheriff's Office has got to stop criminalizing these juveniles. And I looked at the consulate. I go, Mr. Consulate, that's what I call him. I said, Mr. Consulate, are you drinking this Kool-Aid? And my chief deputy looked at me like, and he goes, what do I say? What are we going to do? I said, we're not doing nothing. We're not doing nothing. We're going to keep doing I'm part of the executive branch that takes an oath of office to enforce the laws, fair, equitably, and with balance. And let me tell you, 5 minutes, we continue to do that. Today's stats on that, just real quick. And I could talk all day about border, and since I got 5 minutes, I'm going to shut up. But long story short is, we're lucky to have 1 juvenile smuggler in my county right now. We haven't, the best report card is the ranchers, rural folks, have said this is the best it's been in Cochise County in 30 years. So. Thank you. But really thank the men and women of my office that go out there. It's incredible what they're doing. 99.9% of that virtual system was paid by private dollars, not public dollars. In short, we took a weakness of the current federal government's plan and made a strength which complements what the federal government does too. So we had 2 strengths in Cochise County. And like I tell people, I just did an interview, did 3 interviews yesterday, one with the Washington Times back east. But like I tell them, if your federal government, U.S. Congress will fail to do their job, fail to look at the current processes, the Flores Act, these other rules that need to be looked at. If they're serious about securing this country, your communities, when 90% of all the illicit drugs in this country come through our southern border, how much darn operational control do you really have on it? We have to work together, and sheriffs brought that together. Currently, we're in the process. My camera's going to New Mexico, all the way into coming into Yuma right now, at no cost to the taxpayers or the sheriffs, and we're working together. We're going to secure this at the local level. Trust me on that. I want to share, before I close out here with you, I want to share, a year ago, when I see people in Congress come up and say, it's a manufactured crisis on our border. After 35 years of seeing dead bodies and having people die in my hands for exposure, I chased a car. They all bailed out of the car. I run up to the car to secure it, like any good cop does. There's a guy in the back seat. He looked at me, and he's getting that glaze over like a fish look, a dead fish look. He looked at me, and I'm like, get out of the car, get out of the car. And he's just looking at me, and I realized he wasn't there. And he just went limp on me. I pulled him out, started CPR, and he ended up dying right there. I can't tell you the amount of kids, the amount of women to the amount of males that we see. And I want to give you some stats. Just in the first full 8 months of the year, in 2019, what this manufactured crisis looks like on the southwest border. You hear about CBP, who Congress has not and still today fails. And I go on Fox and all these media. I will continue to call out Congress until they fix this and support their federal partners. 300,000 hours have been spent. These are just CBP stats. These are not sheriff stats. These are just CBP. And I want to give you an idea what their daunting task looks like. 300,000 hours of medical time they've spent helping criminal illegal aliens coming in this country. 217 deaths, 4,400 rescues, 822 assaults against federal agents. You'll love this one. 141 countries have presented itself on the southwest border coming into your communities. 1,100 gang members have been known, affiliated gang members have come through the southwest border. You'll love this one too. Congress has failed to fund ICE detainer beds. In fact, they reduced it 10,000 beds effective October 1st. When they do that, what that means is those aggravated felon dangerous criminals go into our communities. That is ridiculous. When sheriffs don't work with our federal partners, I mean collectively, I'm not giving up our authority. I'm saying we work as partners for the best of you as citizens. 200,000 ICE detainers, aggravated criminals, were released because they don't have the space to detain them, because the judicial process also is not in place. 6,100 fraud families were detected on the southwest border. And in Yuma area alone, they detected 3,500 recycled children that are being exploited by the cartel in Yuma alone. Let me tell you, folks, that is the largest crime scene in this country. And until we as Americans stand up and unite and take this political affiliation and throw it out right now, and take these opinions and these personalities and the hate and get rid of it, we're in trouble. We're in serious trouble. And the day we neglect or forget that U.S. Constitution is a day we're in serious trouble. I have 300 folks that serve my mission at the Sheriff's Office. That includes my volunteers, a little over 300. Everyone takes that Constitution, and that's the first set of expectations to wear this badge and to serve my mission. I thank you for what you do. I thank Sheriff Mack for what he does. I thank for every sheriff in this country for standing up for communities and doing what's right while others fail to do that. Thank you so much.